WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net in the aftermath of the loss to the Los Angeles Chargers. That still doesn't roll off the tongue. I still want to call them San Diego, but now that we lost, I got to show a modicum of respect their way. I did not sit in my seats in Section 513 on Sunday. My wife has been under the weather for the better part of a month, in or out. I appreciate all the love for my wife. She's fine, just not fine enough to be sitting out on a 40-degree day with the wind blowing in her face for 4 hours after doing it the last couple of weekends. So I did not sit in my seats. And so this week, traditionally in the old days, I would sit here and take 5,000 phone calls and 5,000 pissed off people and do civic therapy. So instead, I am inviting my 513 compadres on. Don Mohler will be joining me later on in the week. I'm going to be also trying to find some other of my football buddies whom I talk to. I've invited Joe Enoch on. He has declined. We'll catch up with Bill Cole. I had Dennis on earlier. Jeff Mohler sits with me in Section 513. Jeff, I'm going to have you represent every angry fan from Catonsville to Dundalk and Middle River, all the way up to Hartford County, across to Hereford, out to Westminster and all parts in Hampstead and Manchester and everywhere else. Welcome, my man. How's life? I know in the aftermath of all of this, I wasn't up there to give hugs and high fives, and there weren't a whole lot of hugs and high fives going on up there on Sunday, from what I could tell.
No, Nestor, it's all your fault, man. It just wasn't the same without you and Jen sitting in front of us. We tried to hold the fort down, but clearly we were unsuccessful doing it without you guys there. So if I got to put the blame on somebody, I'm not putting it on Lamar. I'm not putting it on Flacco. I'm not putting it on Harbaugh. I'm going to put it on you and Jen for not being in your seats, man. It's all your fault.
When my wife hears this, she will probably agree with you and come up in her mind with some way that we would have willed an onside kick or something. I don't know. It really was a thorough beatdown, right? And I know a lot of time when we sit together up in the stands, we're talking about coaching and plays and what happened on this play and what's going on with that. And I've sort of got the bat phone to Luke, and I'm on the web the first three quarters, and I usually get down in the fourth quarter and sit in the press box where I can tweet and whatnot. I don't know what could have been said there over the first three quarters other than on an individual basis, one-on-one, our players lost lots of battles, and one-on-one, the coaching, they brought a different game plan into this game. Gus Bradley did in their defense, and they were going to make Lamar Jackson play left-handed, which means having to pass, and the bad down and distances really were telling, and I know I've been talking to you guys at length about all of that, but I think, coaching needs to be evaluated in the aftermath of this one. I don't know that the Ravens had a great game plan to win the football game.
Well, I could not agree more. Two things that stood out to me. One is you're right. The Ravens came out with a clear game plan to run the ball. They only had one receiver wide for most of that first half. It was only one receiver. There wasn't even a receiver on the other side. So, with the Chargers really stuffing that box and, like you said, daring Lamar to throw the ball, we just kept running right into it. And unfortunately, Lamar made things worse by making the wrong read several times. Several times, with the read option, he kept the ball when the right decision would have been to hand it off, and there was a hole there. And there was other times where he handed off where the linebacker was gearing on the running back, and he could have held on to it. So he made some bad decisions in the run option. But the fact that they just stuck with the same scheme, the same game plan, and kept trying to run the same plays with only one receiver out wide, that just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And then the other thing that stood out to me, Nestor, we really get on Lamar for having a rough game. I think it's a lot more than him, though. I mean, he did struggle, but he's a rookie. He's the youngest quarterback to ever start a playoff game, and it showed yesterday. But the lack of playmakers on this team, it just reared its ugly head yesterday. You have Kenneth Dixon, with a huge fumble in the first quarter. The interception that Lamar threw that bounced off of Moore's hands, look, that was a high throw, no doubt about it, but it hit him in both hands. He's got to catch that ball. So, it's not only Lamar. Lamar has been our best playmaker over the last 7 weeks. He's the reason why we got to the playoffs. But yesterday, when we needed some help from the coaches to help maybe put him in a better position or supporting cast to help him out, that both disappeared and failed him and the fans yesterday.
Well, the fact that we can't pass block well anymore, right? Like maybe that was the glaring issue into October that was hampering Flacco. The things you're talking about, playmakers in the receiving core, protecting the quarterback, having a quarterback that can make a first, second, third read and get the ball where it needs to be without getting clobbered. I was astonished at how Lamar couldn't make things happen out of the pocket and how often he was sacked and pressured in ways that we haven't seen him pressured because his speed has managed to elude that, and he could not elude that on Sunday. And on top of that, I elbowed Luke in the third quarter when nothing was working, and before it got fully to like 23-3, I'm like, why aren't they just running the high school offense? Lamar, fade back, fake like you're going to pass, find daylight, run to the daylight, get 8 yards, get down, let's get up and play 2nd and 2. Like that, Lamar running wild was the only play we had, and we weren't really utilizing that play because Lamar really was looking to throw the football, like was trying, and I don't know that was our best play, really, at any point, because 7 of those times he didn't get rid of the ball.
Right, well, but it's hard to throw the ball with a lack of weapons on the outside, and especially when your sets only have one receiver out wide. Now, later in the game, they started to go 4 or 5 wide. And I think when you do that with Lamar, you open the field up for him to do exactly what you just mentioned. He can step back, find the daylight, run, or find the open receiver. It opens the field for him. When you only have one receiver out wide, and the Chargers did a great job of taking away that run, you got to spread them out. If you spread them out, then maybe Lamar can, and he did it in the fourth quarter. He can run a little bit more. He can find the open receiver. I think it's where the coaching just failed him yesterday. There wasn't really a counter move. There wasn't really the adjustment when they came in and realized what the Chargers were going to do. And I don't think that adjustment was to put Joe Flacco in the game. I don't think that was the adjustment that needed to be made. I think the adjustment needed to be made. And I think that they failed him with that yesterday. They didn't put him in a position where he could be successful doing what he does best at this point in his career.
Jeff Mohler is our guest. He has Mohler and Gary Realty and is out selling homes when he's not sitting in Section 513 with me. I'm stretching out this week and bringing some of my pals on just to get some sort of civic feedback on this because I'm going to be in Atlanta in 3 weeks. We'll be at the Super Bowl. Luke and I will be there. Strategic Factory sponsoring that, along with all of our WNSD sponsors as well. And we'll be down there all week. So I'll get to talk to all the football buddies and all my insiders and my NFL top 10 friends and all the people we have around here. And I'm certainly going to go backwards and grab some of the media that was in town over the weekend. I saw Peter King. Jenny Vrentis wrote a great piece for the MMQB. I talked to Dan Jeremiah from Move the Sticks and NFL Network, who was on the Chargers broadcast team. He's their color guy, so he was in town for that as well. So I'll get to all of these guests, but I want to talk to some of our people about this. And in the aftermath of Sunday's game, Jeff, the notion of what's going to happen to Flacco and the dangling for draft picks and his class on the way out the door. And on top of that, where we are with Harbaugh and whether he's going to continue to be the head coach. I know they've all been kumbaya. Jeff, come on, man. We're all in the real world here. There are 8 jobs out there. 3 or 4 of them are pretty good jobs right now that will not be open next year, like the Packers and the Dolphins and the Jets and the Buccaneers, amongst others, where if John's going to go get a $60 million deal in 5 years at $12 million a year somewhere else, like his brother might be doing this week as well, this is his time to do that, and this is Steve Bisciotti's time to say, yeah, we're going to continue the marriage, or I'm going to deal you for a 2nd and a 4th round pick, along with a quarterback for a 1 and a 3, and we're just going to rebuild this thing top to bottom with a new coach and this quarterback for now, and Eric's going to step in, and we're going to have a dawning of a new day here. Because if there's no dawning of a new day, Steve Bisciotti's got to give John Harbaugh somewhere between $50 and $60 million in the next, 48 hours or so, right?
Yeah, and I think that's something to think about. But look, Nestor, I actually went back and I looked at John's last 11 years here in Baltimore, and I compared it to other teams in the NFL. And here are the facts. And the Ravens, in John's 11 years, they rank 3rd in playoff appearances. They got 7 playoff appearances in 11 years. Only the Packers and the Patriots have more. He's got 10 playoff wins. That's second over that span. Okay, so, and he's doing this. The teams that have had 7 playoff appearances or more are the Patriots, Packers, Colts, Seahawks, and Steelers. Now, think about who their quarterbacks are. We're talking about Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson, and Ben Roethlisberger. And Harbaugh has been as successful or more successful without a Pro Bowl quarterback, without a Pro Bowl receiver, and the only Pro Bowl weapon he's had at the skill position is Ray Rice. He's had one. He's had one Pro Bowl weapon, and that was Ray Rice. That's it. Yet he's been successful. He's gotten them to the playoffs. He's won more playoff games than everybody other than the Patriots. He's been there more than 29 other teams.
And by the way, every word you're saying about John Harbaugh, you can then say about Joe Flacco other than the last 8 weeks. Literally, their records are identical. They won every playoff game together. They lost every playoff game together. They went to the playoffs or they didn't go to the playoffs. They won playoff games and won Super Bowls or they lost. Billy Cundiff, Harbaugh didn't call a timeout. The kick didn't get set. Lee Evans didn't catch the ball. And I'll be writing a Dear Joe Flacco letter when all of this is said and done. But this has been a glorious, productive, unitas kind of era of quarterbacking here. And I would I have loved them to tap Joe Flacco on the shoulder and have him play that role of coming out and throwing a touchdown pass with 8 minutes left to go in the game to get them back in. Yeah, do I think that was possible behind that offensive line? Or probable? No, I guess no. I don't think he thinks that. And after not practicing for 10 weeks, no. I mean, is there some storybook thing there that you want to conjure up? Sure. I'm not going to be the guy screaming, well, if they just would have put Flacco in, although there were some Zach Britton references, right? Certainly those all came up in the third and fourth quarter, and the fans booed, and that's on the record, right? You were sitting in the bowl for that. Right. That happened for real. But the Flacco and Harbaugh thing, anything you're going to say about one, you have to say about the other one too. I just want to point that out. Keep going. You're on a roll with Harbaugh.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, and you're absolutely right. But the point is that I can say the same for Flacco. Look, he's been successful without a Pro Bowl weapon. And Joe's hasn't been a Pro Bowl quarterback. I can appreciate that, but he's been wildly successful here in Baltimore, and he's done it without having a legitimate game-breaking weapon to throw the ball to. Now, he's had some good players, but he hasn't had anybody great. He hasn't had any of those game breakers, and that really said yesterday. So, all the people that are coming out, the people that are on Harbaugh, they're just spoiled. You have to look at what he's done. I can argue that John Harbaugh has gotten more out of this team than any other coach in the league has gotten out of, has done with their team. I mean, he's done it with one Pro Bowl player in 11 years at a skill position. He's won the second most playoff wins than anybody. He's been there 7 times, which is third in the NFL over 11 years. With this lack of talent, I mean, the facts are the facts. It's a lack of talent, and Joe Flacco's done it without any great Pro Bowl caliber weapons around him. A guy that you can hand the ball off to, and he'll make a play, or a receiver you can throw the ball up to on a one-on-one situation, and they're going to come down with it. He hasn't had that guy, but these guys have found a way to be successful, and we're just spoiled here in Baltimore, and we always think that the grass is greener on the other side. And nothing was more true of that than yesterday when fans start billing a rookie quarterback who got us to the playoffs, who without a doubt had a horrendous first half. But you got to be kidding me. Everybody here was screaming for Joe Flacco's head, telling us how bad Joe Flacco is and calling for Lamar, and the kid has a bad half. And the crowd starts billing Lamar and calling for Joe Flacco to come back in the game.
Well, it's like any other lousy sports town. The backup quarterback's the most popular guy in town, no matter who he is, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. But to me, that's a lack of real understanding and a lack of really thinking about what this franchise is trying to do moving forward. You just said it, Nestor. Joe Flacco hasn't taken a rep with the starting team in 10 weeks. The whole scheme changed. The offensive line yesterday was atrocious. What exactly was going to happen if Joe Flacco came in that game? That wouldn't have been fair to Joe. It's a system. He has not taken a rep with that starting team in 2 months. and to throw him in a situation when they're down by a couple touchdowns, and expect some miracle behind an offensive line that was quite honestly atrocious yesterday. Our best chance of winning that game was to keep Lamar and hope that the kid would grow. And that experience he had yesterday will pay huge dividends moving forward. And the fans just can't lose sight of the fact that Lamar, after getting booed by his home team, after having a bad half, comes in, throws for 200 yards in the fourth quarter, has 2 touchdowns, and if the offensive line holds up just a little bit, he might be the one bringing us back and continuing this playoff run. He's the one that did that. So I think there's some real positive view in that game yesterday.
Jeff Mohler is our guest. He has Mohler and Gary Realty. Tell me what you do in the real world. You sell homes, right? Literally, that's what you do.
I do sell homes. Nestor, I love helping people. And I've done a little bit of commercial real estate, but residential real estate is really what my passion is. Helping people realize their dreams, finding that new home or upgrading for their family into a bigger home. It's the reward is amazing. I'm really passionate about it. And if your listeners just want to go to MohlerandGary.com, they can learn more about it. But looking forward to a great 2019 and helping many more home buyers and sellers realize their dreams.
Well, part of my dream and your dream would be seeing me next to you at the Orioles games this summer. I don't know if that's going to be happening at this point. People keep coming up to me every day and saying I should patch things up with them. It's like laughable. It's like I apply for a press credential, they turn me down. That is our relationship at this point. And I think that puts even more pressure on the Ravens. And, I sit up there in Section 513 with you. For those of you just joining us, I'm having some of my friends on this week. In addition to having the usual suspects and experts and all that, we're going to be in Atlanta next week. I'll be having all that. But I just wanted to talk to some fans, some astute fans that I sit with, and I was not in my seats over the weekend. My wife's been under the weather, so I sat in the press box with Luke. And, there was a point for me with Lamar in the third quarter where I'm thinking, why isn't he just running on every play? Because that's their best play when they get behind. And then I look at Lamar from afar, and I look at where John Harbaugh is in this coaching mix of 8 seats empty, maybe 9 if he decides he wants to go coach the Dolphins. Vic Fangio was up in the booth, and he got eliminated on Sunday night. And I know Vic pretty well from my days with Brian and Brian with him here in Baltimore. And all these names and all these chairs are out there right now, and I'm thinking, what does Steve Bisciotti want moving forward for the organization? And what does John Harbaugh want for his own career? And seeing what Andy Reid has built a second time around in Kansas City, or what Dick Vermeil did a second time around, or Marty Schottenheimer going a second or third time around, or any of these coaches, Dan Reeves or Shanahan, or any of these guys that did it in 2 places. Parcells did it 3 or 4 places, right? Even Belichick. This isn't this is his second rodeo. He had a first rodeo in Cleveland where he had a playoff job that got cut short with everything that happened in the move. It will be interesting to see whether John wants one story in Baltimore to be that story and Steve Bisciotti. And Steve, same way, saying, hey, Brian, 10, 11 years. Coach Billick was on earlier this week on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation and talked about that, Jeff, that, Coach Walsh said that, 10, 11 years was enough, and that was 30, 40 years ago, right? So I don't know if you subscribe to that one way or another, and obviously Sean Payton has stuck around now to have a whole second life with Drew Brees. Belichick's never gone anywhere, and, everybody in Cincinnati is saying, why did we have Marvin here so long? So everybody's going to have a story on this, but this right now, and we haven't had a lot of these moments because from the moment Harbaugh and Bisciotti shook hands, they were fast friends. They won a lot. They won a lot more. They won championships. This is the moment of, are we going to stay married or are we not? What is the cost of business? Who else wants me? What do I want my legacy to be? How do I want my team to be run? And the next couple of days are really, really important here, right? I mean, for Eric DeCosta and Ozzie Newsome, where there's already going to be this parachuting thing happening, and Joe Flacco is going to be dealt to the highest bidder now. So this is going to be a tumultuous 90 days, but it all starts right here, right now with who's the coach?
Right, and the Ravens are totally in control of that. And the one thing, that I think is very important, and I hope, and I'm sure that Bisciotti sees this, is what's going on in the locker room. I think when Billick left, there were some issues going on in the locker room. There were some rumblings that maybe he had lost a team. That's not the case with John Harbaugh. These players love playing for him, and they play really hard for him. And with 8 or 9 openings right now in the NFL, you have to kind of realize that, hey, there's not that many great coaches in the league. And John Harbaugh, even though this is his 10th and 11th year, he's kind of evolved into the coach that he is right now. He's not the same coach he was when he got here.
For sure. That's a very, very fair assessment, Jeff. It really is. I mean, I don't know that gets said all the time.
Yeah, and that's important. You know, a coach that evolves in the players. When you have guys like Eric Weddle and Willie Snead coming out publicly and just praising John Harbaugh, that goes a long way. I think this guy is a very good coach. I've proven my point before of what he's been able to do with the talent that he's had and how far he's taken his team and what he's brought to this city. You know, can you imagine, Nestor, if we were sitting here talking about the Orioles, complaining about them making the playoffs 7 out of 11 years and only winning one World Series? I mean, that's how spoiled we got with this football team. They're one of the most successful franchises in the NFL over the last decade. And here we are talking about, should we fire or not retain our head coach?
No. I don't think it's not about what you and I think. I think this is about two accomplished men, one a billionaire, one a millionaire and set for life, and a brother who's accomplished as much, certainly financially, that this is about where do you want your spirit to reside, you know, and where you are with Eric DeCosta, and where you are with your quarterback, where you are with your wife and your daughter who's about to go off to college, and where Andy Reid took his second act, right? And where Brian Billick took his second act to television, and where John Gruden is in his second act right now. Actually, his third act, which is the same as the first act if you go back to the part of the play. But I think it really is about human beings. I mean, I turned 50 a couple of months ago, and as you well know, being on my inner circle, I think people are going to see massive differences in my life over the next 6 months or the next year and how I'm writing and thinking and talking around here, because I am trying to figure out my second act, because I don't think it's going back to doing sports radio talking about the Orioles as though it's 1996 all over again. So I think we all, and I know one thing, Ray Lewis isn't coming back in here, and Ed Reed's not coming back in here, and the naive nature of our fan base, where we're just happy to have a team, that's not coming back again. Coach Billick's not coming back again. John Ogden's not coming back again. So none of that's happening. So now it's, do I want this job here right now with these people, with this quarterback, or do I want to try a second act and do something different? And I think the same question for Steve, to your point, is how am I going to replace John? But I don't think Steve thinks like that as a human being, right? Because Steve has hired and fired a billion people. Steve thinks that as I can go find the third John. And wouldn't it be something now if I win a Super Bowl with 3 different head coaches, right? And Eric wins a Super Bowl, and you know, and we win one without Joe Flacco and without Ray Lewis and without Terrell Suggs and without we have a whole new thing, and maybe it's Lamar Jackson, maybe it's not. But I would think that if you're either one of these men right now, this is where they are, and they've had a lot of praying to do on this over the last 6 months, and certainly when the team was 4-5. But this is where we're going to find out who's married to who, for real.
Yeah, and you know, and what adds to that, Nestor, is that when you look at the overall picture of the franchise, when they have the potential to really free up a lot of cap space, it's the first time in a long time where they could have some money to spend in free agency if they decide to part ways with some veterans. That's all going to play into this decision. I mean, you're right. This could be a totally different looking squad next year from the head coach down. And I think that all plays into it as well. You know, my fear obviously is that, hey, you know, we have a good head coach, you know, and whether or not John wants to be here or not, it's a great point. You know, that remains to be seen. I would love to see him stay here. But I do think we need to get younger, you know, at the coordinator position, a little bit more creative, somebody that's going to be able to make this first-round draft pick in Lamar Jackson, make him tick and really utilize his strengths and help him grow as well. But, you know, it's going to be an interesting couple months for sure. You know, I think I'm optimistic either way. I think this is a team that showed a lot of growth. There's some good young talent. I think last year's draft, Ozzy's last draft, has proven to be a very good one. And the future's bright. I just hope that, and I do put my faith in Steve Bisciotti. As you know, he's made some great hires in his career, not just in football. So if we need a new coach, I think we're in good hands with Bisciotti.
Think I'm going to get my press credential back during the baseball season? What do you think? I mean, you're a season ticket holder. You financially support them who blackball me, right. So you tell me. What do you think?
Yeah, I hope so. I think for everything that I've seen and I've heard from Elias, it gives me a lot of hope. So you hope that maybe things are changing, and that includes getting you back in the clubhouse with your press credentials to ask the right questions and to continue to hold them accountable. He seems like a guy that's willing to be held accountable and is very confident in what he does. So there should not be an intimidation factor of Nestor Aparicio being in that locker room. Nestor, you're one of the biggest Oriole fans I've ever met, and it's heartbreaking that you're in a position that you are right now, and I'd love to have you.
It's only
back.
The 13th year, so I'm kind of used to it. By the way, opening day, we actually opened at Yankee Stadium. I hadn't really looked at this is the first. Hey, you get eliminated, right? I mean, we're not together up in Section 513. We opened against the Yankees. Are you ready for this? On March 28th. It's a Thursday. Thursday, 1:05. Friday they're off. Then we play the Yankees on Saturday and Sunday, the 30th and 31st. I don't even know if that might be the March Madness 16 weekend. Our home opener is April 4th against the Yankees. We play at Toronto April 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And that's no April Fool's joke, by the way. And so we're home April 4th we open against the Yankees at 3:05 on a Thursday. So there you have it. So baseball season, Jeff Mohler. How about that?
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you there on April 4th.
Cheaper on the outside. What can I say? Jeff, be well, man. Good having you on.
Thanks for having me, Nestor.
Jeff Mohler, one of our dear friends, my compadres in Section 513, and also with Mohler and Gary Realty as well, selling homes from Catonsville throughout the state of Maryland. He's been my friend since, I don't know, he's probably 5 years old or something like that. However old he was in 1982. That's the first time I met Jeff Mohler. So have to do the math and go backwards. And that's 36 years, and he's probably 31 now, so that's -5. I am Nestor. I'm out on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Snapchat and Instagram and streaming live into wherever your mobile device or laptop or tablet is. We're on YouTube and Facebook Live and doing all that stuff. We're also out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. I'm chatting with some of my Section 513 friends and some of my friends in the community who love football this week, and I'm giving everyone a chance to have a little bit of civic angst, a little phone caller angst this week. Just I can hear everyone, freshening their breath and breathing the fresh air of springtime that's around the corner. Lots of questions for the Ravens. Obviously not the ending we wanted. I had buses pointed toward Providence and Boston. I could taste the clam chowder and the garlic from the North End Italian restaurant on my breath. But alas, not meant to be. Instead, I'm going to Pizza John's. How about that, man? I'm going to get to Essex and back River Neck Road. I guess it's 51 years now because it was 50 years last year, right? 410-687-7733. You can find them online. Order ahead. I'm kind of salivating. I haven't had Pizza John's pizza. It's embarrassing. I don't think I've been there since like Thanksgiving because I went away and then I got sick and then I went away and then I got sick and then I thought I was going away and now I'm sick of being eliminated from the playoffs, so I'm going to Essex. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get some pizza and I'm going to watch the Colts and the Chiefs and the Rams and the Cowboys and the Eagles. Although, with Schwartz coaching, I found myself in Eagle mode Sunday night. Not quite Eagle fly mode, but, you root for your friends. I have very few of them left. If they get rid of John, I'll have even less here. So, we'll see how it turns out with John and with Steve Bisciotti this week. I don't want to say I hope one way or another. I just hope that whatever kumbaya that they come to leads to a parade. And I even started looking at like where all the future Super Bowls were, like Miami and Tampa and New Orleans, and thinking, where will our next Super Bowl come? I don't know. I just hope there's another one because I'm greedy like that. I need Purple Rain 3. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.